This week on the Inside Athletic Training Podcast, we welcome in Ben Fraser, Assistant Athletic Trainer for the San Diego Padres. With years of experience working in both minor and Major League Baseball settings, Ben brings a wealth of knowledge, perspective, and passion for the profession. Enjoy the show. All right, Ben, welcome to Inside Athletic Training. Happy to have you on the show for the first time. You're currently in your sixth season with the Padres as an assistant athletic trainer. We will get into all things Padres and your career here shortly. But first, I'd love to learn more and share with our listeners about your background. So tell us where you're from. Were you into sports or anything growing up, and also how you found a passion and liking for athletic training and sports medicine?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me on the show. This is an exciting opportunity to be here. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin. I lived in Racine, which is about 30, 40 minutes south of Milwaukee. Growing up, like in elementary school, I played a lot of the main sports like flag football and basketball, track and field, and baseball. And growing up, like baseball was always like a big thing in our family. Like my parents would get like the season ticket package for the Brewers. So like we'd always be watching 15, 20 games at, when I was a kid, it was like Milwaukee County Stadium. So we'd go out there and watch, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor play. And, and then, once they built Miller Park, then we were out there watching, Ben Sheets and Fernando Vina and Jeff Cirillo and all those guys playing. So grew up big Brewers fan. And then as I transitioned into high school, I kind of like narrowed down the baseball. I mean, at the time I was, probably, 5'10" and weighed about 110 pounds. So I wasn't going to like make much of a football career or track and field or whatever. Yeah. So I just kind of like wanted to do baseball. So I played baseball all through high school. And when I was kind of coming time to what do you want to do with your life? And my high school was really small high school. So it's like, there's like 200 students there. And I think most of my graduating class is like 40, 50 students. So like we didn't have like an athletic trainer at the school. So I didn't really even know anything about what athletic training was, or even that was even like a profession when I was in high school. And like, if you were at baseball practice, you got hurt, you just called your parents and then they just took you to urgent care and just kind of figured it out. Yeah. So I wanted to do something in the medical field. And I thought like nursing would be a good profession. It seemed like it was kind of exciting. You could kind of go into any kind of, a niche there, whether it's, emergency room, pediatrics, oncology, whatever, that you could kind of find a way there. And like, cause I wanted to help people, and, medical field seemed like a pretty solid position. So I ended up deciding to go to Concordia University in Wisconsin, and they had a really nice nursing program there. And, I was still playing baseball. I played baseball first year and a half of college. And when I started playing there my freshman year, that was the first time I ever we were assigned an athletic trainer to our team. And that was oh wow, you could do something in the medical field, and you're at every practice, every game, you got your medical kit, you handle all the rehab treatment and whatnot. And so I'm mostly through my first year of college, and I was nursing is just really not for me. I just really wasn't super passionate about it. And I was like, all right, but I still want to do something in the medical field. So I started asking our ATC, well, he was a student at the time, so our student athletic trainer at the time, about the profession. And, it seemed like a really easy transition at the time. I was I wasn't going to, go on and, make a baseball career as a player, but I could still kind of be involved in the sports and be part of the competition while still being able to serve and be in the medical field. So that seemed like a real easy transition. So I met with the program director at the school, and at the time, the Concordia University was really building up this big athletic training education program. They had built a really nice facility, and the staffing was great. So it seemed like a great fit, and I just kind of went down that path and never looked back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the exposure, as a lot of our members have said, in the athletic training room, realizing, hey, that's this is actually a job, is something that a lot of people don't know, and it's cool to get exposure when you're in college or even the high school days to figure out that it's a career that someone can have, which is a common theme across like membership, like I mentioned. Well, Ben, you've made a number of different stops throughout the course of your career, notably, some time as the Padres minor league medical coordinator, some time with Seattle. We'll get into your kind of your stops along the way. Talk a bit about what it's like breaking into the world of professional baseball. So many people are looking for that opportunity. Share with us kind of your thought process of how you thought you'd get in versus how it worked when you were kind of getting through college and working your way into that first internship or job or something like that.
Sure. I didn't really have any connections in athletic training or in the world of baseball when I was kind of going through college. I just knew I just wanted to work in baseball.
Hmm.
And my first couple of years at Concordia University, I had this roommate, and we became like really good friends, and we're still friends to this day. And he was going to be a sports writer, and Concordia University didn't really have like a sports writing program. So he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to like make it here at Concordia. So I'm going to transfer. And he was from like Sedona, Arizona at the time. So he transferred schools to Northern Arizona. And it's at
Hmm.
this point, it's like my junior year of college. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go visit him on my spring break. And we're going to take in a bunch of spring training games and whatnot. And
Yep.
I was like, I don't know, like I don't really know how to go about doing this, but like I'm gonna be there anyway. I bought my flight. Like maybe I'll just send my, whatever I have as a resume after being like 2, 3 years as a student, which is, almost nothing.
Yeah.
The cover letter, and I just kind of pulled up the address of all the stadiums and
Yep.
like pulled up the name of the head athletic trainer of all the teams in Arizona, and I just sent it all out there. I was like, well, if I at least get like one hit or a bite, it'd be great. If not, then I'm already there anyway. We'll just see what happens. So I sent it all out there, and Rick Griffin, the head athletic trainer with the Mariners, calls me. I think I got to be like a junior. He's like, hey, like if you know Rick, like he's very charismatic,
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah.
big personality. Like, hey Ben, I got your resume. Like, how you doing? Like, yeah, we'd love to have you. Like,
Yeah, makes you
come
feel
on
like he
down.
cares so much about you, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I was like, yeah, like, don't worry, we'll find a place for you. Just come on down. Like, we'll get you all set up. And I was like, wow, this is great. So junior year for spring break, I flew down there, and I kind of got my foot in the door there, just kind of helped out like in minor league spring training. And
Hmm.
so I was there for a week, and I was like, this is a great experience. Like next year we'll try to do the same thing. So senior year comes around, same thing. I'm gonna go down, fly down, see my buddy, send out the resumes again. I didn't really keep in touch with Rick throughout the year. Rick calls me again. He's like, yeah, you got to come on down. Come on. Well, yeah, I remember you. It'd be great. Have you here. Like, perfect. Like, okay. So get in there. Been there for a week. Great experience again. I'm like, yeah, this is definitely want to do. Like, I definitely want to work in baseball. I definitely want to like be a part of this. Like, it just
Yep.
seems like a really great environment. Great, full staff it was wonderful. At this point, it's like, okay, I'm graduating. I'm getting to get my uh, got my certification. I had double majored in college, so I had like an exercise science degree as well as
Hmm.
electronics. So I was able to sit for my BLC exam as well as sit for the CSCS. So I got my dual certification. But I was like, I'm
Awesome.
going to need to. At the time, I was like, I'm going to go to grad school. I'm going to. I just feel like having some foresight about like how the profession was leaning toward like it was
Yeah.
going to like it seemed like it was like at the time and back then like you didn't need to have more than a bachelor's degree to practice and like essentially do everything except for like teaching at the college level. But I was like, I don't know, like I feel like it'd be smart just to get the master's degree and just be, you know, have it all. So I
Yeah.
went to Indiana State University and so at the time, like having played baseball a year or two in college, I wasn't assigned to work baseball in undergrad. It's like you've already kind of played baseball, so we're not going to put you in upper extremity sports. So in all undergrad, I worked like football, soccer, and like some a little bit of track and field. So like
Okay.
going into grad school, I was like, all right, like I gotta work like baseball. If I'm gonna like try to make a career, I'm gonna have to have some sort of baseball experience. So I
Yep.
get to Indiana State. I was like, okay, you gotta apply for the sport you want to do an interview. And so I interviewed, and I didn't have any baseball experience. So like the program director was like, no, look, for baseball, we're going to want someone that's like experienced in upper extremity. I tried to spin it like, well, I don't have the experience. Therefore, you should give me the position because like that way I'll be like more prepared. He's like, no, I'm going to give you softball instead. And I was like, shoot, like, all right, like, all right, I'm going to do softball instead. And so I'm working softball that whole year, and in Indiana State, it was a 1 year program. So it starts July, ends July. So I was like, all right, like I'm going to apply for a position right after I graduate in like June, July. Like I know like the season's already started, but
Yeah.
again, I'm going to send my resume out to all 30 teams, see what happens. If I get a couple of hits, great. If not, then I'll try again in the fall. But at least if I got 30 resumes out there, like hopefully someone at least gives me a phone call back. So Jeff Collins with the Oakland A's, he's at the time he's the minor league medical coordinator, and now he's the head athletic trainer. So,
Yep.
yeah, we've got short season baseball. The draft is going to happen in June, and then we're going to start the short season. So I interviewed for a position there, and he's like, "We got an internship here if you're interested." I was like, "Yeah." So Jeff offered me the position as an athletic training intern with their short season team in Vancouver, British Columbia at the time. It's like, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out there like mid-June, go to Arizona for whatever, 3, 4 days from the mini camp, and then fly up to Vancouver with the team head athletic trainer from there. And I'm like, okay, so I get there, I'm there for the camp, and then at the time, in which maybe it was disclosed to me, maybe it wasn't, but when I found out about it, when I got there, like it was news to me where I was under the impression that like, okay, you're going to get there and you're going to be the intern, you're going to be the assistant, you're just going to help the team athletic trainer out,
Yeah.
whatever he needs, you're just going to be there and learn from him. Like, great. And, we get you some experience. You've got some, strength conditioning background. We'll get you some experience over there. I'm like, okay, wonderful. So I get there and they're like, yeah, we don't have a full-time strength conditioning coach. We don't hire them at the affiliates. We just put the intern to oversee all that. So you're going to go to, Vancouver, British Columbia in about 3 days, and you're going to handle all the strength conditioning responsibilities for the entire team, as well as handle, the athletic training duties. So I'm like, what? So now I got to be the strength coach. But it was great because like I already had the background, I already worked in it, but like going into it, like I felt like I was pretty well prepared as well as you could be to going into that. So then I did that for the year, and like Jeff was great. He was a great resource, and the team athletic trainer there was Travis. His name was Travis Timms, and he was great. And then from there, after the season, I applied for a full time job, and I'm sure Jeff like gave me sent out a few phone calls, and then
Yeah.
got hired full time from there, and then the career just took off from there.
Yeah. No, that's a wild ride, and I think anyone who kind of jumps in their first internship or apprenticeship, kind of trial by fire,
Mhm.
learning a lot, no idea what to expect early on. So, um, very cool to hear your story there. Well, Ben, after your time with the Athletics, you made a couple stops along the way to landing with the Padres, notably time with the Arizona Diamondbacks and also some time with the Seattle Mariners. Walk us through those jobs and kind of your path from intern that you just spoke about until landing with the Padres.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so after that internship, I was hired with Arizona Diamondbacks as a rookie ball athletic trainer, and I got to work with Ken Crenshaw and PJ Mainville. PJ Mainville, he's the medical director with the Cubs now, but at the time he was the minor league medical coordinator in Arizona. So, I mean, if you know anything about Ken and PJ and like the program that they have, and it's not just them, like the whole Arizona Diamondbacks group,
Yeah,
like
amazing.
they do an incredible job of like really trying to develop
Hmm.
a staff and you as a person, you as a leader, you as a clinician. They give you every opportunity and every skill you could ever need to just kind of maximize your potential within the profession, within the field. So I was with Arizona for about 4 years, and I learned everything that I could there. And like I said, like they're really just trying to push like you to just be the best teammate and like be as prepared for you going into the rest of your career. And hopefully it's with Arizona, but like Ken's great about like and I've kind of taken that on like kind of some of that persona myself. Like it really doesn't matter if you like make it to the top with us as long as you made it, and we could help you,
Yeah,
be the resource. And it's not up to us to decide where you should go. It's like you got to make the best decision for you and your career and your family, and we're just going to help you, like give you the resources and give you those opportunities to get you there. So like
sure.
Ken and PJ and that whole staff and was absolutely instrumental in developing me there. And then I was there for about 4 years. I did 2 seasons in short season. That was like Yakima, Washington. I did a year in Visalia, California, in the California League, and then I did a year in Mobile, Alabama, in the Southern League. So I did, 2 years short season, 1 year in high A, 1 year in double A, and then um, I got an opportunity to interview for an assistant athletic training position with Seattle, and Rick Griffin and the minor league medical coordinator Jimmy Southard at the time was had an opening, and they interviewed me over there, and I was able to get the opportunity to kind of transition into more of a leadership position over there. And at the time, like Jimmy was trying to kind of create an identity of like what does it mean to be a Seattle Mariners athletic trainer, and like kind of put together, like develop our staff and develop like a system of like what is our foundation going to be, and like really just try to create like help create a culture with the help of Rick and the S&C department. And so like that was a really great experience there for because the responsibilities as the assistant athletic training coordinator was more rehab based. Like at the time we didn't have a physical therapist, so like that responsibility ultimately like was mostly on my plate. So I was able to oversee and manage all the minor league rehab and then any major league rehab that came down from Seattle down to Arizona, and I help facilitate and like organize and run all of that with the help of Jimmy, and we had a Latin American medical coordinator there as well. So the three of us kind of split that, but the primary responsibility was rehab. But Jimmy was so great, and like his goal for our seat between like myself, our Latin American medical coordinator, and him was like we should be able to like essentially transition to any of our seats at any time. So like he was going to give us and train us to essentially be the next minor league medical coordinator. So anything that he was doing, he was allowing us to, whether that was doing medical reviews for the draft, teaching opportunities for our younger affiliate athletic trainers, being more of a like putting us into like mentorship position with our younger staff, visiting and evaluating our staff, like having like the foresight of planning out the department years down the road, like what is this supposed to be? How do we get there? So when it came time for me to transition into taking the minor league medical coordinator job in San Diego, like a lot of that responsibility I'd already done under the umbrella of Jimmy and Rick with Seattle. So it was a pretty seamless transition. It wasn't as like a big of a jump to be like, okay, now I'm overseeing all essentially medical operation between over 200 plus athletes, 100 plus staff members. Like I was more than prepared to kind of transition into that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I think you mentioned some huge names in athletic training. First of all, Rick Griffin, PBATS Hall of Famer, just a legend in the profession. Like you said, an extremely charismatic guy. One thing I want to talk to you about, which I find super interesting across PBATS, is kind of the the athletic training trees. So you mentioned the Arizona Diamondbacks and their development. To name a couple guys, Kyle Torgerson, head athletic trainer with the Mariners, Ryan Eubanks, head athletic trainer with the Tigers, Ryan DePanflo, who's with the D-backs, PJ Mainville, who you mentioned, medical director with the Cubs now. All of these guys kind of learned under Ken Crenshaw, who seemingly has the most incredible athletic training tree out there right now. What is it about Ken and his development and the lessons those guys help you learn in the minor leagues that kind of prepare you differently, seemingly, than a lot of organizations might do?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to a lot of the organizations, but I mean, having worked with Ken and then having worked with some of Ken's tree in Arizona and into Seattle. But I mean, I think Ken's approach is it's really kind of developing you as a person first.
Yeah.
And like ultimately, like at the end of the day, it's player first care. So, but like, and it doesn't matter, who gets the credit for it, as long as like we're like leveraging off of each other and using the strengths of the whole team to get there. So it's like ultimately you got to be a good teammate, and like we all have our niches, we all have our skill sets, and we also have our weaknesses too. So it's like if we're gonna treat a person and like this person is looking for X, Y, Z, and I'm really good at X and Y, but maybe not as polished on Z, I can ultimately like take that player and like, okay, why don't you go work with, Vaughn Robinson in our strength and conditioning department? Can you work with Brett McCabe here, or you work with, Ryan DePanflo on this thing here, and we can seamlessly just kind of transition players back and forth and making sure that they get the best that they need. I mean, Ken is like pretty innovative in like continuing education. Like that's like a foundational piece of like being able to be an excellent athletic trainer. So like him seeking out like the most cutting edge, like progressive like programs and systems out there, and then allowing us to train there, and then like with all of us training there, and then we all like we practice it together. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm going to take this course this off season. I'm the only one that's taking it, and then it's essentially just on myself to like practice it and use it. And if I don't use it, then I'm essentially going to forget it and not use it. But if all whatever 20 of us are taking it, and then we all go into spring training with the thought of like, let's try to get as good as we can with this system or these two systems, and then like we're going into the season, and I'm on my own with it's just me and my strength and conditioning coach. Like he and I have the same skill set, so like we can still leverage each other in
Yeah.
the FNC and AT side. That we're still pushing each other to be the best at it, and then bringing like our own knowledge and lessons learned from the season and the off season into the group next year and teaching each other. And it's like there's just constant growth always happening, especially with the profession just ever evolving. It's like you can't just be stagnant. You can't just
Yeah.
be like, okay, this is how we treat shoulders, and this is just how we're going to do it. It's like, okay, we did really good with the shoulders this year, but like, how do we make that better? And like, here's a new system, here's a new way of thinking of the body, here's a new way of thinking the body is like a global movement system and chain. And
Yeah.
so, like, you take all of that and then you combo that with the thought of like you're working together as a team, like you're selfless, you're just pushing each other to be the best that you can be, and you're proud of everyone around you.
Hmm.
Ultimately, like that type of system just grows and just flourishes, and
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
what he's been able to do with collaboration with his S&C department and sports science department. It's that whole, I mean, I can't speak to what they do now, but I would imagine it's very similar, if not way better than it was when I was there from 2009 2012. And it's a very robust, very special thing that he does there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Ben, we talked about you landing with the Padres after so much quality experience that we talked about right there. You've been with the club for, I believe this will be your 6th year as a major league assistant athletic trainer. Share with us kind of your feelings and reflections when you got the call that you're moving up to the big leagues. I know that's a huge goal for many athletic trainers and many young kids growing up who want to be in the profession. What was it like getting the call and learning that you're going to move up from the coordinator position and then kind of take a permanent place on the staff in the big leagues?
No, that was a very, very special phone call. It's, like you said, that's a phone call that everyone always just kind of hopes that they get one day. And it was an interesting time because at the time, the day he called me, I was just buying a house in Arizona. And I was like, yeah, I'm closing on the house today. Like, oh yeah, well, we have a couple openings here. I'm like, all right, well, I'm closing on the house today. I like, if we're gonna make a move, like,
Yeah.
maybe we should, move on it fast. But so he calls and he, offers the position, and it was like, man, this is great. And like my wife and I, we had just had our first daughter, and she's at the time,
Hmm.
she's, I don't know, 8, 9 months old. And like, okay, if we're gonna be able to make this move, like it's like now is gonna be a great time because
Yeah.
kids are young enough, and like I mean, who doesn't want to move to Southern California? It's and like having worked as the coordinator in San Diego for 2 years prior to this phone call, like I had more than the opportunity to kind of get to know Mark Rogo, our head athletic trainer, and the staff that was there. And it was like, you could tell like the staff that Mark was building was pretty special. And it was like, it was going to be, it wasn't just kind of transitioning into like another organization. You don't know how things are going to go. It's
Yeah.
like how Mark was running things at the major league level was reflective of how we were doing things from top to bottom. So like to make the transition to the major league level is like, okay, I know I'm if I take the position, I'm going to be transitioning into something that's we all have very like-minded processes, and how we're going to go about things is going to be pretty seamless. So, accepted that position, and we moved my family out to San Diego, and it's a decision I haven't ever regretted. And working with Mark and the rest of the staff there has been nothing less than terrific. So.
Yeah, no, Mark Rogo, who's been a guest on the show, awesome guy. I couldn't imagine how great it is working for him and with the staff you guys have out there. Well, Ben, I want to get into kind of some more details about your day to day, what you actually do at work for the Padres. You guys are looking at spring training getting started here, probably working with some guys right now. Is there anything you guys focus on in the off season as a staff, you, Mark, and everybody else? To get prepared to improve from last year? I know you guys have a really talented club and a lot of expectations. What is the off season in terms of like continuing education, getting better at your craft? What does that look like for you as a athletic training professional?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, I think it would be silly if you don't try to like continue to mold your craft like throughout the off season and taking the lessons learned from the previous year and previous experiences and try to share that
Hmm.
with the whole group. What makes spring training special is like that's really the only time of the year where your entire major league and minor league staff are together in one place. When the spring training is
Yeah.
over, we've got five minor league teams in the States, and we've got an academy in the Dominican Republic, and then we have our team that's in San Diego. So, the opportunities to cross paths with the rest of our staff throughout the year are far and few between. So I think, you know, we kind of have our foundation of what our expectations are to be an athletic trainer with the San Diego Padres. And the idea is that we give everyone at least like a foundation of like a skill set. Like this is how we're going to treat people from top to bottom. This is how we kind of run our arm care. This is our expectation from a treatment or a hydration standpoint. So like when our players move from level to level and ultimately get to the major league, it isn't like foreign to them that this is how we do things at the major league level. Like you should be able to plug a player in the major league level into, A ball in the Dominican Republic, and like the basic foundation of how things are run are the same. So the idea is like we give everyone on the staff like this like essentially like a safety net of like this is how we do things as a staff, and then that allows like our staff to be able to kind of branch off and like they want to learn specific little continuing education things on their own, or like they kind of find their niche, and whether maybe it's more dry needling, or maybe it's more movement exercise based or manual therapy or whatever, that they can do that knowing that like that could potentially be really successful. Or maybe they don't get as much out of that, but they at least can
Yeah.
always fall back on like here's like our pillars, or here's our foundation of what it means to be like this is what like the base expectation is for care. And then like that allows, like I said, everyone kind of goes off, kind of picks their and chooses like their own continued education, as well as like continue to grow with like the stuff that we do as a group between S and C and athletic training and physical therapy. So like our players can kind of get similar care either with us or even with our strength and conditioning or with our physical therapist. And then when our guys are taking their more unique stuff, when you get together in spring training, we'll carve out some time for those of us that took different things to kind of share with the group with like, this is what I learned this off season, and here's like a couple of pieces, or here's a nugget of information that like the group could use. And that a lot of times I can be like, okay, I can take a piece here and there and I can add that to my own skill set. But I'll like a lot of times it's like, that was kind of cool. That was really interesting. Like maybe next off season, or maybe there's some digital or online content that I can kind of dive deeper into that and learn that throughout the year to kind of go further down in that. So we have more than one resource that does a certain type of training. So that's like kind of a cool thing about that. And then like kind of like you were saying, like you're kind of looking into the year moving ahead. Like, so how do we make you know, how do we make our approach for our organization better this year than we did the year before? So, there's a lot more data being gathered. We do more testing than we've ever done in the past, and I think that's probably pretty consistent across all teams in sports now. So there's opportunities for us to kind of see just from a data and like movement standpoint between like our position coaches and pitching coaches and sports science to be like, okay, like here's more objective information on like, you know, maybe this is why we saw more hip stuff or more elbow stuff, and maybe not, but like here's some common trends. Like, are we seeing anything consistent in the athletic training room or with
Hmm.
the physical therapist that might align with that? And then we can kind of come up with, tinker with our overall approaches and plans going into the year to like maybe we can, let's see if that can move the needle a little bit in regards to, you know, injury prevention, recovery, injury trends, whatnot.
Yeah. That makes total sense and a great kind of explanation and overview there from you. So we talked a bit about Mark Rogo and the leader of the staff there. In terms of communication, I know that's hugely important for athletic trainers going up to the front office, down to the coordinator, and throughout the organization. What do you guys, what is communication like for you in your position as the assistant athletic trainer? Who are you talking to most throughout the day? Kind of what's the overall like communication strategy from, working with Mark in the front office and also kind of keeping tabs on your affiliates as well?
Yeah, yeah. So within our own major league staff, there's Mark Roga, our head athletic trainer, and then there's three other assistant athletic trainers. We've got a physical therapist, and then we have two acupuncturists. So it's a pretty nice size medical staff. But that's a lot of people. That's a lot of touches on our players. There's a lot of individual care that's
Yeah.
spread amongst the whole group. So for us communicate, like, I mean, that's no secret. The communication is key to any kind of
Hmm.
success. But for us, it's every day that we meet as a group between our whole department as well as S&C is in sports science, kind of going over like our players throughout the day. Like this is where they're at. This is how they're feeling. This is our plan moving forward, and then coming up with multiple different plans based off of how the day might go for that player. Because and what's great is our skill sets are pretty similar, and like we work so seamlessly together that like we can all kind of take all the players. It's like it's not like, okay, player A comes in, this person only works with Mark. Player B
Hmm.
comes in, this guy only works with Ricky. It's yeah, maybe this player typically works with Ricky, but Ricky might be busy working with two other players right now, and then I can kind of jump in, and work with that player, and or we're communicating within our group about what they needs to be done, and it's not like that player is getting less care because like Ricky does something that much differently than I do, that
Sure.
like we can easily transition and trade off.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like because we're so close that like communication is like an ongoing dialogue throughout the day. So it's not just we have the one 15-minute meeting at the start of the day about what the plan is going to look like. It's constant communication throughout the day within our own group and within our coaching staff about how things are transitioned. So if it's like, okay, player A is rehabbing forearm strain. No, he's halfway through his throwing progression. He's going to throw out the whatever 150 feet today, and then maybe whatever throw off the short mound or whatever. And
Hmm.
so it's like that person comes in, he reports, this is how I'm feeling today. Feeling a little tight here, kind of want to work a little bit on my hip, whatever. So that person gets that care. That player gets that care from one of us, and then that's communicated to our S&C department as they're going into their warm up. Okay, this is what this person's reporting. Let's focus a little more on some, left hip mobility work here to make sure
Yep.
they're feeling good there. That player goes through that whole routine. The S&C coach comes back to us. Okay, he went through this. He's saying this. I'm seeing this. He's moving better here. He's more fluidly here. I think he's ready to go outside. Perfect. They go outside. That stuff's communicated with our pitching coach and our bullpen catcher. Like, this is what he's saying. This is how he's feeling. Goes through the throwing progression. Player comes in. I feel really good. Felt whatever. Felt a little tight on the first few throws. Okay, there's communication between the pitching coach, bullpen coach, us, S&C, about what the next step for the rest of the day looks like. And then, okay, we'll make these changes in the lift in the weight room. And okay, we're going to add in this stuff in your recovery stuff at the end of the day here. And that's just, so then they go in the weight room, does this lift, whatever. Strength coach comes back in, tells us this is what he did, this is how he felt, and then we roll into the end of the day stuff. So it's just constant dialogue, constant
Yeah.
communication throughout the day. It's not just this is the plan for the day, and then we'll find out tomorrow if you didn't work with him how that worked out, or you read the report at the end of the day. It's because things are going to change. It's like that
Sure.
person going out there, that guy's supposed to come in, boom, that guy felt super painful, or that guy like rolled his ankle during the team warm up, and now we've got to adjust for that.
Another
So
issue. Yeah.
you can't be like, okay, that guy's going to the weight room and like, well, per the meeting today, he's supposed to do the lower body lift, so we're going to do that in plyometrics today. And it's like, well, now we can't do that because
Yeah.
stuff happens. So it's constant communication because no one can be left out. And then it's there's obviously media around too. So it's like you got to make sure like everyone's well informed. You got to make sure our manager Mike Schilt is informed on changes throughout the day because what he's going to report to the media, we want to make sure that's aligning with
Yeah.
things have transpired throughout the day what the plan was. So
Yeah.
it's you never want to make sure you never want anyone to be blindsided based off of what the plan was going to be and knowing that that might change. So we got to be flexible. We got to be able to think on our feet. We got to be able to have your head on a swivel and be able to adapt based off of anything.
Yeah, definitely a underrated aspect of the job. I mean, you guys are professionals and know your anatomy and how to take care of players and keep them on the field, but communication and kind of a feel for how things work in the athletic training room is something you can't teach. I'm sure you got to get experience in there to learn that. Well, Ben, you guys are clearly in the contender category. I don't think anyone would argue with that. Have had a great club for a couple years here. Um, how do you guys handle, you and Mark and Ricky and the staff over there, how do you guys handle the pressure that might come with maintaining player health for a team that's has very high expectations and expected to contend each year, knowing that that player health is such a huge component to winning in baseball?
I mean, I think a lot of that starts kind of the question you had asked a couple questions ago is like that stuff kind of starts in spring training. Like,
Yeah.
let's take the lessons learned from the previous years and let's take the content and information that we've learned throughout that process in the off season and let's try to put together the best program moving forward going into the year. And it can be overwhelming if you look at like, okay, it's spring training, it's February 5th today. We just got to make sure everyone's healthy in November 1st. Like
Yeah.
that can be an overwhelming thought. Like I need
Yeah.
26 guys to be
Long way
healthy
to go.
today for the next 9 months. Like you kind of got to take it day by day, series by series, and like one step at a time. So it's like, and a lot of it's just process driven. It's not like, okay, we're going to implement this program today, and therefore this program is going to eliminate 1,000 days off the IL and save us X amount of money in workers' comp and whatever else and eliminate surgery. Like it's not so much that it's like what little stuff can we change in our programming? And maybe it's bigger stuff, but like knowing that like we're going to make these adaptations and progressions and this should based off of what we've learned, this is the natural progression of this and this should like bear the fruit that we expected to over the longevity of the season or then maybe the next 2 to 3 years or maybe it's like we've collected this data and it's answering these questions but it's not really answering these other questions, so maybe we need
Yep.
to gather different data or maybe we need to try out different techniques or different strategies or whatever to get there. So it's making smaller changes along the way and just kind of trusting the process. So then once you're kind of going through the thick of it or the midway through the year, it's like, okay, are we still making changes or making adaptations to that? And then looking back at the end of the year, like, was this fruitful or not? Or did we learn anything from this? Or did we end up learning way more than we ever thought we were going to? And so it's more process driven and not like, if we do A and we do B, then that's going to equal C. It's more
Sure.
like, like we've seen this trend in soft tissue injuries. Why don't we put a bigger focus on this that we know that the science and the research supports, and then like what we've experienced, like let's put all that together and let's make an easy decision to make that change, and let's just kind of see how that goes. And most times more than not, like it makes a positive result. Like we're rarely going to be like, let's just make a radical move and let's just hope for the best. We're going to be like, let's start doing this and
Yeah.
absolutely do this and like hopefully nothing bad happens. It's like it's all very calculated and it's never like let's make a big jump. It's make smaller steps, smaller steps, smaller steps, and then when you look back on it, like the smaller steps equaled a longer trek made.
Sure, sure. Yeah, totally makes sense. Well, Ben, kind of reflecting on your career, you accomplished some awesome things. When you were in college, you probably had aspirations to be where you are today. There's a lot of our listeners out there who are maybe taking on their first PBATS internship this coming summer, or you guys are hiring interns who are kind of trying to make their mark and get into baseball, like you were in Arizona handing out resumes and all that good stuff back in the day. If you had one best piece of advice for athletic training students out there hoping to one day be in your shoes, what would that be?
I would say you got to be open minded and you got to trust you got to trust and use your resources around you. I mean,
Hmm.
the biggest tool that we have is like our peers. Like there's just so much information
Sure.
and so much knowledge out there, and people that are athletic trainers like we're not like people where it's like I have this skill set. I'm gonna hold this and keep this. This is a trade secret. It's like everyone's very open to learning from each other. Like we do that all the time where it's like we're dealing with a difficult injury or maybe something that's a little more challenging. And it's like, maybe we'll reach out to other ATs and be like, hey, how have you guys managed, the forearm injuries, or how have you guys been managing your ankle sprains, or like what type of new tech are you guys using, or whatever.
Hmm.
It's to me, it's like there's so much information and knowledge to be gained from just like talking to the people around you and like like using us and like new students that are coming to the PBATS courses and the ASMI courses like go out there and talk to those head athletic trainers and assistant athletic trainers and minor league athletic trainers like those guys are more than willing to like spend the time and like talk to you and help you kind of get to where you're going and answer those questions and like help you get there. It's like, the profession's ever evolving. You can't just go into like, all right, I got a pretty good handle on like how to manage children. Like this is how I'm
Yeah.
going to do it. Like it's like, okay, well, I feel like we got a pretty good thing going with this, but like there's always new stuff coming out and like the way that, how the game is played is different than it was 5, 10 years ago. It's like
Hmm.
it's a different demand. Guys are moving fast, guys are throwing harder. Like the way you treat people have also got to adapt to that. So it's
Yep.
just utilizing the people around you. Like this, I think that's one of the fun things about being an athletic trainer is like, I mean, I don't need to know other athletic trainers. I could call up the whatever. If I could get the phone number of the head athletic trainer for the football team at whatever Northwestern University, and I want to talk shop with him, he'd probably be willing to spend a half an hour with me and
Yeah,
talk. He doesn't even know
absolutely.
me. It's like that's the fun thing. Like you just like find your way to like have those conversations and facilitate that.
Hmm.
Start making those friendships and building those relationships. That stuff's like long run, right? It's like
Yeah.
people that I've met, like in my first years in 2008, 2009, I still stay in touch with those people, and
Yeah.
I've never worked with those people before. It's like that
Hmm.
stuff long standing.
Yeah, goes to show the power of relationships, but also, PBATs as a fraternity, the men and women in the membership are always willing to speak to each other and, like you said, go outside of sports and keep connections and grow. I think that's a great point from you there for students out there listening. Well, Ben, to wrap up today's episode, we always finish with a quick Q&A segment called Extra Bases. So I'm going to ask you 4 quick questions and kind of let you share some insight about you as a person and some of your favorite things and places about athletic training. So we will kick it off at first base. You guys have great facilities over in San Diego. Outside of your home athletic training room, what's your favorite room to work in on the road across Major League Baseball?
Um, I would say probably either Atlanta or Yankee Stadium. Those guys
Okay.
have done a great job building, fantastic facility and big space, and those places make it like pretty fun to visit when you know you've got the space and the resources to be able to get everything you need done.
Yeah, I think I would say probably a third of our guests in the big leagues have mentioned Atlanta. So
Mhm.
props to George and the staff who built out that facility there, doing a great job. Moving on to second base, you're one of the few people in the dugout during a game. Awesome part of being an athletic trainer. I know you're watching the game differently than the fans are. But do you have a favorite stadium and a coolest vantage point to watch a game in the dugout outside of the ballpark in San Diego, which is a choice of many of our members?
I was gonna say, unbiasedly, I was going to say Petco Park because
Yeah, no
this
kidding.
beautiful
No bias
ballpark
there.
and the crowd is so electric all the time. So the first place would probably be Petco Park, but otherwise, I always thought like Wrigley Field is always cool. It's just
Yeah.
like the magic of and the history of that. Like it's a fun place to be able to watch the game and just kind of like be a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, historic. That and Fenway, two of the most historic places that a lot of our members have said are their favorite spots to watch a game. Moving on to third base, outside of the actual game and the work you do you have a favorite city to visit on the road?
I probably Chicago. I mean, it's close enough to home for me, so I can see
Yeah.
some family there. But like Chicago's such a like a good city. Like it's a good walking city. You're right there on the lake. There's
Yep.
great food there. There's tons to do there, and the people there are great. So I'd say Chicago is probably one of the road trips that I look forward to the most. Just knowing that like that's it's a solid spot to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously with the baseball season, you guys are going in the summer. As a fellow Midwesterner, we know we don't want to deal with that at this time of
Yeah.
year. Well, Ben, to wrap up, moving on to home plate. you've been in the big leagues for a while now. We talked about you getting the call to come on board with the Padres big league staff. That first year, did you ever have like a wow, this is a welcome to the big leagues moment?
So my first year in the big leagues was 2020. So you're managing the pandemic. So
Yeah, there you go. Say no more.
when you're going through 12 years in the minor leagues, and you're like, all right, when you get that first opening day, and it's going to be a roaring crowd, and you're
Yeah,
like,
dead
this is
silent.
feel like you made it, and you're starting your opening day on July 27th, and you go out to the dugout, and there's 15 cardboard cutouts behind home plate and artificial noise. You're like, man.
Yeah,
Well, it's not what I thought it was going to be, but
yeah.
we made it.
A moment to say the least, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely not how you drew it up, but I'm sure it's something you always look back on,
no doubt.
and a little perspective to think of how good it is now at Petco Park. Obviously one of the greatest arenas for baseball out there. Well, Ben, appreciate you joining the show. Awesome insight from you about the profession. So many good tidbits for students out there and people looking to break into the game. And we wish you, Mark, and everybody out in San Diego nothing but the best of luck this coming year.
All right, thank you so much, Sam. This has been a great experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. For more information about PBATS and athletic training, visit pbats.com. See you next time.